Hello and welcome to another month in our Power Users group. I hope you're having a good year, and I hope that these monthly updates have been helpful to you and have given you a few more skills to use along the way. Last month we looked at a variety of things that you could do if you were traveling this summer, different things that might be helpful. We looked at photos that you could put on your phone. We talked about the map app a little bit. We talked about some apps to track flights, a whole bunch of stuff. I want to follow up on that just a little bit today and then jump into one more app that I want to make sure that everybody has on their phone. So, without any further ado, let's get started with a bit of a review. One of the things we talked about using last month was Google Maps as a way to help you with your travel. We didn't spend a lot of time on that because I think most people are pretty familiar with how to use a map app and how to get directions and get to wherever you're going. Sometimes people aren't as familiar with what happens on the back end of that. So I just wanted to take a moment and go over that with you to make sure that you know where you can find that information. I've opened up just maps.google.com here on my computer, and this is where it opens to because it's my current location. And I want to show you a little bit about what it tells me about what happened last month when I was traveling. So after you've been on the road for a while, or at any point, you can always check this. You can go into your map, click on the three little menu items up here, the pancake stack or the hamburger or whatever you are calling it these days. You'll see there's a lot of options here, and most people haven't ever looked at any of those. I'm only going to look at one today, and that's going to be your timeline. If you click on your timeline, it will show you all of the travel that you have done when you have had Location Finder turned on in your map app. And for me, that goes back for quite a while. You can see 287 places visited since I have turned that on. And you can see red dots up and down the map marking my most recent trip, but you'll also see red dots in other places if I zoomed in or out. But that's not the point of today. I want to really focus on the trip that we just went on. We went from our home here in Connecticut all the way to Jacksonville, Florida, and then made several stops back up the East Coast, Savannah, Virginia Beach, Washington, D.C., and so forth. So I just want you to see how you can get information about that. So it opens up to today and it just shows you a summary. But what I want to do is I'm going to narrow it down to things that I did in June of 2022, and you can start to see that across the bottom it starts to narrow down options for me, and there are fewer red dots because it's tracking where I went on that trip. I could even go to the day that we left home, and it will show me exactly where I traveled that day. It will show me what time I left my house in the morning at 8:11 in the morning, how far I drove before I made the first rest stop over in New Jersey, how far I drove again, where I stopped for lunch, where I stopped to sleep that night, where I went out to dinner. You can see that it's tracking my trip all the way through, and as I hover over each item, the map will light up so that it is marking where each thing happened, so that my next section of driving, so each time you can see the driving part that happened, it's tracking that for you. It also tells me in that day, I went 427 miles. Unfortunately, it took almost 9 hours to do that because there was so much traffic going through the Baltimore, Washington, D.C. area. It was bumper to bumper. Oh my goodness. But at least I can see that. I can also look forward to the next few days. I know that way over here on Thursday, I left Jacksonville, and is it going to let me click on Thursday? There we go. I left Jacksonville and went up to Savannah. And so you can see I left the Marriott in Jacksonville, only drove for a few minutes because we went to our daughter's house to say goodbye to her. Then we drove up to, stopped at Georgia Peach World, but that was just to get some peach iced tea. Kept going until we finally made it to our hotel in Savannah, and then on into the Savannah Historic District for that afternoon. So the map is tracking it all, and you can see that it continued to do that for our whole trip. Here we went from Raleigh to Virginia Beach, and the next day from Virginia Beach up to Washington, D.C. and it's always tracking those moments for us. Now, what you'll also notice as you scroll through over here, you'll see that each time I'm clicking somewhere um, and I'm scrolling through, you will see that when we made a stop, there are photos there. And so I can click on one of those photos and I can remove it, I can cancel it, or I can just go and view it. And so then I can see all the photos that were taken at that stop along the way. And it'll tell me there's 54 more photos taken at the National Gallery of Art on that day. So it is really tracking everything that I did. It's also tracking how far I've walked to get from place to place, because I didn't drive very far that day. Mostly I just took the metro to get into Washington from our hotel out in Tyson's Corner and then back out. So I did a tiny bit of driving. That would have been when we went out to dinner, I think. But time on the metro, also some walking around in DC. So you can see this is a great way to keep track of your trip. If you need to go back and figure out what was the total mileage you did on your trip, or how many stops did you make, or whatever kind of summary you would like, all of that information is there for you. If something is there that's not correct, you can always update it and say, I didn't really stop at that place, I stopped at a different place. You can always remove that stop, add details. You can adjust this timeline because it might make an error at some point. It is just the map app in your pocket or in the car or wherever you go. And so sometimes you want to update it a little bit or add more information if you're really using this as an information source. I just wanted you to know this was there. The map app does a great job getting you places, and often that's what we use it for, but it also does a great job after the fact of telling you about the places you've been and giving you information about your travel and linking you between your map app and your photo app. And that's the next thing we want to talk about today, is the Google Photos app. So the Google Photos app, this is an app that I want to talk with you about for a few minutes today, and this is an app that I want every single person to put on their phone, with one exception, and that exception would be if you have a Google Pixel phone, because Google Photos is already built into the Pixel phone. But if you have any other Android phone, iOS phone, I want you to put it on your phone. No reason not to do it today. And I'll give you several reasons why, but I just want to prove to you I've got it right next to my Photos app right here. That comes with my iPhone, where every time I take a picture, it goes right into that app. Right beside it is my Google Photos app. And I even have a little widget down here at the bottom so that Google Photos is always showing me memories from here's, this week, 2 years ago, or whatever. Now, I didn't put it on my phone just to get the widget. That's kind of a cool thing that I have that popping up all the time. I get to see fun pictures. That's not why. Let me tell you why you want the Google Photos app on your phone. Because this gives you a free, high-quality backup of every photo you take, almost instantly. Every photo I take on my phone goes into my camera roll, but every photo I take on my phone also, within just seconds, is uploaded to the cloud and stored in Google Photos. So if I lose my phone, if I drop my phone in the ocean, if I damage my phone in any way and can't take what's on there and move it to the new phone because it's too damaged, it's shot, the drive is gone, I have not lost any of my photos. And my photos are the things that I care most about on the phone. I can always download other apps again. I've got contacts stored on my computer. I want those photos, and I don't want them just sitting on this phone. I want them backed up somewhere. Google Photos makes that seamless. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to remember at some point, oh yeah, I need to back things up. It is happening in real time as I'm taking photos. So that's why I want you to do it. Now, let me just show you how that looks. And I'm going to show you on my computer because it's hard to see things on the small phone, even if I connect it and show you the phone screen in real time here. So I'm going to show you on my computer because that's also one of the benefits is Just like I can access Google Photos on my phone, Google Photos is just a part of your Google account right here on your computer. Now, I'm not talking about your work account. Google Photos is not turned on in our work accounts. This is in your personal Google account. So you would download the app, log into it. Things are going to start showing up on your computer. Let me show you what I mean. So now we're looking at my Google Photos on the computer. I am logged into my personal Google account, my Gmail account, and this is part of the beauty of using all the Google apps together, because earlier we were looking at our timeline in our maps, and it showed me photos taken on each of those days because those two apps are talking to each other. You can find your Google Photos app always by pulling down your three dots, and there's all the things, and one of the options is Google Photos. And if you have the Google Photos app turned on your phone, then you have what you need to start looking at things on your computer. So let me just get down here to some of the photos that were taken on that trip. You can see that it was storing the photos as I go, but you can also see that as I start to move up and down, a timeline appears on the side. I can scroll through and choose to see photos at any time. Since I got my very first iPhone back there, I can just click and go because all of my photos are backed up here. That's a tremendous peace of mind to know that I'm not going to lose anything. It also means that I can take as many photos as I want because they're just stored here. And at some point, if you've downloaded enough photos and put enough stuff in your Google Drive that you've filled up your 15 gigs, you can do like I've done. You can see the storage here. So I've bought Google One, which is their next tier of storage. Once you move past the free storage of 15 gigs, it gives you 100 gigs of storage. But that also lets me do other things, and so there were other reasons for that, and it's certainly not photos that's taking up all that space. But it is a lot of photos because there are a lot of photos going all the way back to all those years. So I'm happy to have that there. And it's on my computer as well as my phone. It's nice to have it on my phone because I can see it on the widget. I can text a photo to somebody if I want to say, hey, look at this cool thing. Once I get it on my computer, I can do more with it. So let's take a look at that for just a moment. I am going to pick a photo, and I will pick this one right here. This is in the Philadelphia Museum of Art, sort of their grand entryway. And I want you to see just some of the things that I can do with this. I can share this photo with anyone that I want. I have editing tools, so I can edit things for the photo. I can do cropping and light change and setting, changing the ratio. I can do all kinds of things to it. And it's nice to be able to have those editing features. I can see the info about it. It will tell me when it was taken, what phone I used. It'll give me the original information about the image. It'll even, remember where it's all linked together, it will take me back to where I was on the map so that I can see exactly where I was when I took that photo. And you'll see this little pencil. A lot of these things give me options to edit. Some of these do not. You don't want to change the information about your phone or the actual image information. But the reason you might want to change the date is not because you want to pretend like you were somewhere when you weren't. But if someone else has shared a photo with you, let's say my wife and I were both in the museum, but I didn't take this photo, she did, and she shared it with me 3 days later. It's going to show up for me as 3 days later because that's when it got onto my phone and backed up to my Google Drive. I would want to go back and change that to the original date so that it fell into the correct timeline with the rest of my photos. I could also update the title of this if there was a slight error. If it marked that I took the photo outside the Philadelphia Art Museum because the GPS was slightly weirded out by all the stone in the building and tile and whatever, I can always edit that piece as well. So it's nice to be able to have all of that information there. I can also just add a general description about the photo if I need to add information for myself. I can star the photo and add it to my favorites. I can obviously delete it. I can also turn it into part of a slideshow. I can download it. I can add it to an album. I can add it to a shared album. I can order prints, etc. So you can see there's a lot I can do. Now, yes, I can do all of those things in the app on my phone as well. Sometimes it's a little hard to do some of that editing on the phone because it's much smaller. It's also a little trickier to add it into slideshows and photo albums on the phone. So it's nice to have everything here on the computer where you can see it all at one time. I also want you to see the amazing search options, because when you've got all those photos, how are you going to find the photos that you want? So when you go to Explore, I can certainly search for whatever. Let's say I'm interested in food things. Well, Google Photos can determine which photos have information about food, whether it's a picture of food, whether it has the word food. So it will search and find pictures of food for me. Now that will include recipes, because that would be about food. So you can see there will be a lot of things that are food related. And will it be perfect in its search? No, sometimes I've typed in a word and it would put one weird photo in there or whatever. But it's pretty good at finding the photos that I want, so that if I need to grab a photo and I'm not sure when the date was that it was taken, I can just search that way. I can also search by people or even by the pets in our family. So if I need to search for things that just have me in them, I can click my picture and go there. It could be scary to see what happens. Okay, so there we are at the beach, different beach shots, whatever. It will also always give you an option if it sees something where like there's a shadow on the face, or maybe the face is partially blocked. It'll say, hey, is this the same person? You can let it know it's the same person, and I'll come back and do that later. But that way it continues to refine searching by people. Since it knows where you took things, you can search by places. Where was I when I took certain pictures? It will automatically find things, wine bottles, things about cars, pictures of forests, birds, whatever. I can find my favorites. I can look at my recent things. You can see that I can look at screenshots, selfies, videos. I can make collages, and if I've made collages, it will take me to those so that I can always find the things that I want to find. Google started as a search engine. Google is still an amazing search option. I can share things with people. These are the things that I currently am sharing, these different albums. I can create more shared albums to share, or just other shared links to individual photos. They obviously have a print store where you can order, prints, books, whatever. I got my favorites. Here's the albums that I have, and I can make more. There are even utilities where you can make your own movies, your own animations, your own collages, and it will also suggest things to you along the way, which is really cool. So you can see there's a lot that you can do with Google Photos. So it's more than just a backup option, but the backup is the key thing. Do it for that, even if you don't do it for anything else. But once you have it, it's going to be fun to do all these other things. So let me quickly review how to get this on your phone, how to set it up, and we'll be all set. So the first thing that I want you to do is just go to the App Store or the Google Play Store and download the Google Photos app. It is free and it'll download really quickly, and then we'll set it up. Once you've got it downloaded, you will need to log in to your Google account inside the inside the Google Photos app. So once you log in, you'll see your icon up in the upper right corner. You'll know you're in your account. And if you click that icon, you will bring up this option screen. On this screen, you'll see there are several different features for you. You can see that your backup is complete at the moment. You'll be able to see other information about your Google Photos app. But what I really want to focus on today is just getting you set up. So let's look down at the bottom where it says Google Photos Settings. Once you click Google Photos Settings, it will open up a settings panel that you can scroll up and down. There are a lot of different setting options there. Some of them are pretty self-explanatory. Some of them are not that critical for you. There are 5 that I want to make sure that we review together. First of all, we will click on that very first setting, backup and sync, so that we can turn this thing on and get it working for us. Once you click backup and sync, it will bring you to this screen. And so at the very top there, make sure you turn on backup and syncing so that it is now backing up all the photos from your phone, not just the ones that you take starting today, but it will also back up everything that's already on your camera roll. So you will have a backup of everything. At the bottom of this screen, you will have some choices there. Do you want to use cellular data to back up your photos and your videos? That depends on what your cell phone plan is. I have unlimited data, so yes, I use it to back up my photos. I want those backed up immediately. I don't do a lot of videos, and when I do, I'm okay if that waits until I'm on Wi-Fi to do the backup. And just above those settings, you will see upload size. That doesn't look like a thing that you can click on, but it is. So click on that now. Once you click on that screen, you will see that you have an option. You have a storage saver option, which will let you upload your photos to the backup, but at a slightly reduced quality. Or you can take the original quality, which is going to give you a backup at the same quality that your phone is capturing. And as phones have gotten better and better with their built-in cameras, we can take pretty high quality photos. I would not want to have to download and rely on reduced quality photos for my photos if that was my only option. So I definitely back up in the original quality. Next on our settings screen, let's click on the option for Group Similar Faces. Grouping similar faces will bring us to this screen, and we want to turn these on, or at least I do. I want face grouping. Now, remember when I showed you how we could search by people, and I could click on my name or my wife's name or one of my kids' names? This is what tells Google that it's okay to do that. You have to give permission for this because you have to allow for Google to use face recognition software to do that. And that's something that we can do in the United States. If you lived in Canada, that's not an option. But here, you get to opt into using that, knowing that you are also giving up perhaps a little bit of privacy by allowing Google to run face recognition software. For me, it's worth it. So I want face grouping turned on. I want to make sure that the thing that is labeled as me is actually my photo. You can change that if it's made a mistake. I also want it to recognize our pets. If I want to do a collage of our dog, I want to be able to find all the nice dog pictures. So I've turned them all on. The next choice we want to make on our settings screen is the memories setting. In the memory setting, you may see some options that, well, maybe surprise you, that you can hide people and pets or hide date, and then there's some advanced options as well. There's a reason for this. If you take screenshots of your camera, and you may be taking screenshots on a website or whatever, if there's a face there, facial recognition software will run on that. And suddenly you'll start finding those things mixed in. So you can turn off or hide faces that aren't really faces that are family and friends. There's also another item that will sometimes cause you to come in and hide a person for a while. Sometimes if people lose a loved one, they don't really want that popping up on their featured memories. They don't want Google prompting them with, here's a nice collage of this person. That memory might be too painful for a while. And so you can hide that face. You're only hiding it temporarily. You can always unhide it later when that becomes more of a memory that you really cherish and want to remember in a more positive way. But that's why you can hide certain faces. Also, you can hide certain dates if there's a time frame where something was going on that was a difficult time and you want to not have that pop up in your featured memories. So this is why the memories option is one that you will want to know is there, and you'll want to know that you can turn it on and off as needed. The last setting we want to tap into is location. In your location setting, this is where you allow Google Photos to track where you are and bring that information over from the Map app or from GPS settings. So you have a number of different options here about location. You can uh, match your photos with locations, and that's what pairs it up with the map. You can also talk about your location sources, and for that, you can activate your camera settings that allow location to be marked with your photos. And it also allows Google to estimate missing locations by scanning the rest of your location history, landmarks where other photos were taken, etc., just in case it needs to fill in the gaps. That wraps up the settings and the setup for Google Photos app. But I would not be giving you enough good information if I didn't give you one more setting to change if you have an iPhone that will help you share your photos in the highest quality possible. For this setting, go into the settings on your iPhone, scroll down until you find messages and click on that so that you are looking at the settings for your messages, and then scroll through all the message settings to the very bottom and you will see low quality image mode. That is an option that you can turn on so that when you share photos or text photos to someone else, it is shared in a slightly reduced quality. That will allow you to send it faster in a text message or whatever, but it means they are not seeing the best of the photo that you took. And so unless you are on a really slow network or really slow Wi-Fi, I would suggest you go into there, into your messages setting, and make sure that is turned off so that when you share a photo, you are sharing it in the best quality possible. And that brings us to the end of another Power Users Update. I hope this helps you use your phone a little more effectively. Hope it makes sure that you never lose your photos by having your phone lost, damaged, or stolen. Have your photos safe and protected. If you've ever lost photos in the past, you know how painful that can be, and you will thank me later. That's it for this month. Now, August is a month where people go on vacation, summer school shut down for a while. We got a 2-week break before we come back for the new year. We're going to take a break here as well. There will not be a Power Users update for the month of August. We will return in September, where we will look at a variety of different really popular educational technology websites, apps, platforms. These will be things that you may or may not use with your students, but they're things that I want you to know this is what's really happening out there so that you can stay on top of things. All right. Have a good rest of your summer. I will see you in September. Keep learning these tricks so you can be a power user.